In a palace filled with jewels, crowns, and golden carriages, you might imagine that Queen Elizabeth II lived, surrounded only by grand and shining things. You may picture rooms glowing with chandeliers, silver trays, and priceless paintings. Yet some of the most surprising stories about her life do not begin with crowns or thrones. They begin with simple objects. A handbag, a pair of gloves, a small red box that arrived every morning. One of the most powerful women in modern history carried the same style of handbag for decades. She used a lipstick that could fit inside a tiny metal case. She even had a favorite walking stick that was chosen not only for comfort, but for quiet strength. These are not stories of riches. They are stories of habit, of routine, of quiet discipline. Behind the grand balcony waves and state banquets, there were small daily rituals, and those rituals tell us something deeper about the woman who ruled for over 70 years. Tonight, we will gently open the door to her private world. We will look closely at 15 strange and fascinating facts about the objects Queen Elizabeth II used every single day. Some are charming, some are surprising, and some reveal a side of her that few people ever truly saw. Let us begin with the handbag. It may seem like an ordinary accessory, but according to royal historian Sally Bedell-Smith, the Queen's handbag was far more than a fashion choice. For over 50 years, she carried handbags made by the British company Lorna. She preferred simple shapes, strong leather, and long handles. Why long handles? So she could easily shake hands without moving the bag from her arm. That small detail speaks of careful planning. But the strange part is not just the brand. It is how she used it. Reports from former royal staff say that the Queen used her handbag to send quiet signals. If she placed it on the table during an event, it meant she wished to leave within 5 minutes. If she switched it from one arm to the other, it signaled that a conversation should end. No words were needed. The bag spoke for her. Can you imagine holding such silent power in something so small? Inside the handbag were only a few simple things: a lipstick, a small mirror, reading glasses, a fountain pen, and sometimes a crisp £5 note folded carefully. Nothing more, no phone, no wallet filled with cards. Her world moved through tradition, not digital screens. If you find these small details comforting, take a moment to subscribe and join us. We explore royal history with care and calm reflection. And perhaps as we continue, you may even remember the simple objects you carry each day. Now let us move to her gloves. For many decades, the Queen wore gloves during public engagements. They were usually white or cream, made from soft cotton. At first glance, they seemed like a sign of old-fashioned style. Yet there was a practical reason. Gloves protected her hands from germs during the thousands of handshakes she performed every year. But more than that, they created a sense of dignity, a barrier, a gentle distance between monarch and subject. According to royal dresser Angela Kelly, who worked closely with the Queen, these gloves were ordered in large numbers from a British maker. They had to be durable. The Queen shook hands firmly. She did not offer a weak touch. This small object allowed her to meet people warmly while maintaining royal grace. Is it not interesting how even fabric can shape human connection? A thin layer of cotton, yet it carried meaning. Then there were her shoes. You might assume a queen would wear new shoes often, but reports say she preferred to break them in before wearing them publicly. A trusted staff member would wear the shoes inside the palace to soften them. Comfort was important. At her age, especially in later years, comfort was not a luxury. It was a necessity. Yet she never appeared careless. The shoes were polished, always neat. Would you expect such careful attention to something hidden beneath a gown? It shows how much she valued stability. A steady step was important when the whole world was watching. And if you appreciate these quiet habits, Feel free to share your thoughts below. Which daily object in your own life has stayed with you for years? Sometimes the simplest items hold the deepest stories. Each morning, without fail, a red leather box was delivered to her desk. It was called the Red Box. Inside were government papers, letters from the Prime Minister, state documents requiring her review. This ritual began the moment she became Queen in 1952. According to constitutional experts, she read these papers every single day of her reign, even on holidays, even during illness. Imagine that discipline. No matter the weather, no matter her mood, the red box arrived, and she opened it. The object itself became a symbol of duty. Over 70 years, thousands of boxes were carried up palace stairs. The leather sometimes changed, but the ritual did not. Does such routine create strength, or does it create burden? Perhaps both. Beside her desk sat a simple mechanical clock. She preferred traditional clocks over digital ones. She trusted the steady ticking. In a world that changed so quickly, the sound of a clock marked time in a familiar way. Her life spanned from wartime Britain to the age of smartphones. Yet the tick of a clock remained constant. Another object she used daily was her fountain pen. She preferred a specific model, often with black ink. Signing letters was not a small task. She signed official papers, personal notes, and holiday cards. Her signature was clear and steady for many decades. Only in later years did it slightly tremble. According to palace sources, she practiced her signature carefully in her youth. Even her handwriting reflected discipline. Have you ever thought about how a signature carries identity? One stroke of ink can carry the weight of a nation. And then there was her tea. Every afternoon at 5, she had tea, often Earl Grey, served in fine china. But the strange detail is that she preferred her tea without sugar. She also had a simple biscuit or small sandwich. This ritual was not only tradition, it was structure. Even during busy weeks filled with diplomats and ceremonies, tea time remained. If you enjoy hearing about these personal rhythms, consider staying with us through the entire story. There is much more to uncover. And you may find comfort in how routine shapes even the most powerful lives. Let us turn to something even more personal. Her lipstick. It was not chosen randomly. According to accounts from royal staff, she favoured bright shades that matched her outfits. The lipstick case was often simple and practical. She would reapply it herself, even in public view on rare occasions. There was no shame in it, just a woman maintaining composure. A small tube of colour, yet it became part of her public image. Her smile, framed in bright pink, became familiar across generations. Now think about her walking stick in later years. It was first seen publicly in 2003, and again more often in her 90s. Some were plain wood, others slightly carved. The stick was not hidden, it was accepted. It showed aging, yet also resilience. She did not pretend to be younger, she simply adjusted. Does that quiet acceptance teach us something about dignity? Aging happens to all of us. But grace in aging is something different. Another daily object was her small portable radio. She enjoyed listening to horse racing results and the news. Despite the rise of television and internet, radio remained a companion. It offered voices without distraction. And what about her headscarves at Balmoral? When driving her Land Rover around her Scottish estate, she wore simple scarves tied under her chin. The image became iconic, a queen in a countryside setting, driving herself. The scarf protected her hair from wind, yet it also showed practicality. If these details bring a smile, perhaps share this story with someone who remembers those photographs. Royal life was not always about palaces. Sometimes it was about muddy boots and quiet fields. We have only begun to explore these 15 strange facts. Each object carries more meaning than it first appears. As we continue, the stories will grow deeper. Some objects will reveal her private humor, others will reveal her burden of duty. Behind every crown is a desk. Behind every ceremony is a quiet room. And inside that room sit simple, ordinary things. Things touched every day by extraordinary hands. As we continue our journey into the quiet world of Queen Elizabeth II, it becomes clear that the objects she used each day were not random choices. They formed a pattern, almost like a private language. Each item reflected her personality, her training, and the long years of responsibility she carried. The next object may seem simple, yet it held deep meaning for her and for the image she presented to the world, her brooches. Many people noticed the bright coat she wore, but fewer looked closely at the brooches pinned near her shoulder. According to royal historians, she selected brooches with care, sometimes choosing pieces that carried hidden messages. A brooch could mark a memory, a relationship, or even a quiet statement during a diplomatic visit. For example, she sometimes wore brooches gifted by certain countries when meeting their leaders. The object itself became a form of polite communication. Imagine speaking through jewelry without saying a single word. How much thought must have gone into each morning's decision? One brooch she used often was the Cullinan V diamond brooch, part of the famous Cullinan diamonds. Though valuable, she wore it with calm ease, as if it was simply another daily companion. This balance between grandeur and routine made her unique. Even something priceless became part of everyday life. Does repeated use make an object less extraordinary, or does it deepen its meaning? Next, we turn to her glasses. The Queen needed reading glasses for many years, yet she rarely wore them in public photographs. Instead, she used them privately while reviewing documents or reading letters. The frames were simple and practical, often chosen for comfort rather than fashion. According to accounts from staff, she read constantly. Letters from citizens arrived in large numbers, and although she could not respond to each one personally, she valued the connection. Holding a pair of reading glasses each evening may seem like a small act, but it linked her to millions of voices across the country. If you enjoy learning about these personal habits, you may wish to subscribe and continue exploring royal history with us. Many viewers say these quiet details help them feel closer to the past. And if you have memories of seeing the Queen during public events, feel free to share them in the comments. Your stories add warmth to this shared journey. Another daily object was her famous corgi whistle. Her love for dogs, especially corgis, is well documented. According to royal biographers, she used a special whistle to call them. The sound was familiar and comforting both to her and to the dogs themselves. The corgis were not just pets, they were companions through decades of change. Some palace staff joked that the dogs had more access to her than many politicians. The whistle, small and easy to carry, allowed her to maintain that bond wherever she went. How interesting that a monarch known for formality found such joy in a simple sound. Let us consider her diary. Unlike many modern leaders who rely on digital calendars, she used traditional paper diaries. These were carefully organized by private secretaries, yet she maintained a personal connection with them. She would review upcoming events and often add notes. The act of writing helped her prepare mentally. It gave structure to days filled with ceremony. Paper diaries require attention. You must turn pages, see time moving forward. Perhaps this slow method allowed her to stay grounded. Moving deeper into her daily life, we encounter the small tray used for her breakfast. According to former chefs, she preferred a simple morning meal, often cereal, fruit, or toast with marmalade. The tray itself was modest, chosen for practicality rather than decoration. Breakfast was a quiet moment before the duties of the day began. Imagine the calm of early morning at Buckingham Palace, before visitors arrived, before cameras flashed. A tray, a cup of tea, and a few minutes of silence. Sometimes the simplest rituals are the most powerful. The Queen also relied on a collection of scarves and shawls for indoor comfort. Palaces can be drafty places, with large rooms that are not always warm. She often wrapped a shawl around her shoulders while reading or relaxing in private spaces. This small act reminds us that even a monarch feels cold. Even a queen seeks comfort. At this point, it may be worth pausing to reflect. How many objects in our own homes provide similar comfort? A favourite blanket, a well-used chair. These everyday items become silent witnesses to our lives. Another fascinating daily object was her telephone. Unlike many public figures, she did not carry a personal mobile phone for most of her life. Communication happened through secure palace lines. Yet she maintained regular phone calls with family members, particularly with her children and close relatives. The telephone became a bridge between public duty and private emotion. According to reports, she enjoyed speaking informally with her grandchildren. Hearing their voices may have offered relief from the strict formality surrounding her role. There was also her collection of handbags stored carefully in wardrobe rooms. Though we spoke earlier about how she used them for signals, another strange detail is that she often carried the same bag for many years, repairing it when needed. This habit reflects a generation that valued durability over constant replacement. It also suggests a quiet resistance to waste. Do objects become more meaningful when they stay with us longer? Let us now look at the television remote control. While many imagine her watching only formal broadcasts, reports say she enjoyed certain television programs, including documentaries and nature shows. The remote allowed her to choose quietly, without ceremony, a simple device, yet it gave control over how she spent rare moments of leisure. Imagine sitting in a private sitting room, remote in hand, watching a documentary while the world outside speculated about royal affairs. Another object used daily was her prayer book. Faith played an important role in her life as Supreme Governor of the Church of England. She often read from prayer books privately. These moments were not public performances, they were personal reflections. The book itself, worn through years of use, symbolized continuity. In times of crisis, such as national tragedies or personal loss, prayer provided steadiness. According to royal historian Robert Hardman, her faith shaped many decisions quietly, guiding her sense of service. A book held in quiet hands can carry immense strength. Now we arrive at a particularly charming detail, her small candy dish. Reports suggest she enjoyed simple sweets, especially chocolate. The dish would appear in private rooms rather than public spaces. This small pleasure reminds us that even the most disciplined individuals allow themselves moments of indulgence. What small treats bring you comfort at the end of a long day? As we move further into these stories, notice how the tone deepens. The early objects showed charm and clever signals. Now we see objects tied to emotion and inner life. Each item adds another layer to our understanding. Another daily object was her letter opener. With thousands of letters arriving each year, opening envelopes became a routine task. The letter opener was often simple metal or ivory. Elegant, but not extravagant. Imagine sitting at a desk, opening letters from children, veterans, or citizens, sharing their hopes and struggles. Each envelope represented a human connection. Did she feel the weight of expectation with every letter? Perhaps the quiet motion of slicing paper offered a moment to pause. We must also consider her hats. Though not used every single day in private, they were essential during engagements. Her hats were carefully designed to allow people to see her face clearly from a distance. bright colours helped crowds identify her easily. While hats may appear decorative, they served a practical purpose. They turned visibility into a symbol of accessibility. If you are enjoying this deeper look into royal life, consider sharing your thoughts below. Many viewers appreciate discussing how tradition shapes identity, and your reflections may inspire others who remember watching royal events through the decades. One of the most personal daily objects was her photograph collection. Family photographs stood on desks and tables. Pictures of Prince Philip, her parents, and her children surrounded her in private spaces. These images grounded her. They reminded her that beyond the crown was a family. After the passing of Prince Philip in 2021, photographs of him reportedly held even greater emotional weight. The objects did not change, but their meaning deepened. Finally, in this section, we come to the small portable light she sometimes used while reading at night. As she grew older, stronger lighting helped reduce strain on her eyes. The lamp was practical and modest, yet it symbolized something powerful, the continuation of duty despite age. Even in her 90s, she reviewed documents and letters. The light shone over pages long after many would have retired. We have now uncovered many more of the strange facts behind the objects she used daily. Each one tells a story not only about a queen, but about a human being shaped by routine, memory, and quiet discipline. And yet the deepest revelations still remain. The final part will move beyond charm into reflection, exploring how these objects reveal the emotional cost of a lifetime of service and the legacy she left behind. As we enter the final part of this quiet journey, the story begins to feel different. The earlier objects showed charm and clever habit. They revealed routine and comfort, but now we move toward objects that carry deeper weight. These items do not simply show how Queen Elizabeth II lived, they show how she endured. They show how daily objects became silent companions through history, loss, and long years of responsibility. One such object was her simple black handbag used during periods of mourning. While she owned many handbags, the black ones held special meaning. During national tragedies or personal loss, she chose darker accessories that matched the tone of the moment. Observers often focused on her clothing, yet the handbag quietly reflected emotional awareness. After the death of Princess Diana in 1997, commentators noticed how carefully she selected subdued accessories during public appearances. The bag itself did not speak loudly, but it joined the language of respect. Consider the emotional discipline required to choose such objects daily while standing before a grieving public. How does a person balance private emotion with public expectation? The handbag, simple as it was, became part of that balance. Another deeply symbolic object was her walking cane during the last years of her life. Earlier, we spoke about her walking stick appearing more often as she aged. In later years, it became almost constant. Yet she chose canes that looked traditional and dignified. According to reports, she preferred designs that felt stable rather than ornate. Stability mattered more than decoration. Watching her walk slowly with a cane reminded many people of their own aging parents or grandparents. It created a quiet connection between monarch and citizen. Does seeing strength within vulnerability change how we understand leadership? For many viewers, those final public appearances carried profound emotion. Let us now turn to a small but powerful object, her personal writing paper. While official documents arrived in red boxes, personal letters were written on special stationery bearing her crest. Writing letters remained one of her lifelong habits. Even as email and messaging became common, she continued to send handwritten notes. According to royal aides, she believed handwriting showed sincerity. A pen moving across paper created a moment of thought that typing could not replace. The stationery itself was elegant yet restrained. Cream-coloured paper, neat margins, and simple design. It reflected her style, formal, but never excessive. Imagine receiving such a letter. The weight of tradition would be felt even before reading the words. Another object that held emotional importance was her photograph of her father, King George VI. He became king unexpectedly after the abdication of his brother, and his early death in 1952 changed Elizabeth's life forever. Many biographers note that she kept photographs of him close throughout her reign. The object connected her not only to family, but to the moment she became queen. A photograph can freeze time. It allows a person to look backward even while moving forward. We might ask ourselves, do we also keep objects that remind us of who we once were? Her daily schedule also included a small wooden box containing correspondence from the Commonwealth. This box symbolized her connection to nations across the world. Each letter represented a relationship between countries. Opening that box meant facing the wider world every day. It reminded her that her role extended far beyond Britain. The object itself may have been simple wood, yet its meaning was vast. In private moments, she also used a favourite blanket while sitting in her more personal rooms, especially at Balmoral or Windsor. This blanket was reportedly practical and warm rather than luxurious. The image of a queen wrapped in a blanket may surprise some viewers, yet it shows humanity. Comfort is universal. Whether in a small cottage or a grand castle, people reach for warmth. If this image brings memories of your own family traditions, you may wish to share them below. Many viewers find comfort in recognizing how even historic figures share ordinary habits. We must also speak about her daily newspapers. Each morning, selected newspapers were delivered for her review. She read carefully, often marking sections of interest. These papers allowed her to stay connected with public opinion. The rustle of paper, the smell of ink, the turning of pages, these sensory details formed part of her morning routine. Even as media changed rapidly, she remained loyal to printed news. Perhaps paper allowed deeper focus than fast-moving screens. Another object connected to her public role was the dispatch box used during meetings with the Prime Minister. While the red box carried documents, the dispatch box symbolized constitutional tradition. During weekly audiences, she listened more than she spoke. The box rested nearby, a reminder of continuity between monarch and government. According to accounts from several prime ministers, these meetings were private, respectful, and deeply serious. The object witnessed conversations that shaped modern history, yet it remained silent. Let us pause here. Imagine the weight of decades pressing quietly into the leather surface of that box. How many secrets rested within it? How many decisions passed across its lid? In later years, another daily object gained importance, her glasses case. As her eyesight changed, she relied more on reading glasses. The case itself was simple but carefully maintained. Opening it became a ritual before reading or reviewing documents. Small movements like this often go unnoticed, yet they reflect adaptation. Aging requires adjustment. The Queen demonstrated that adaptation without complaint. One of the most emotionally powerful objects near the end of her life was a framed photograph of Prince Philip placed on her desk. After his death, many observers noted its presence during official photographs. The image served as quiet companionship. Grief does not disappear simply because a person holds a public role. The photograph allowed private emotion to exist within public space. Another fascinating object was her personal music player. Though not widely discussed, reports suggest she enjoyed certain traditional songs and hymns. Music offers comfort that words sometimes cannot. Listening to familiar melodies may have helped her reflect during quiet evenings. Imagine the contrast between grand state ceremonies and the soft sound of music in a private room. We also cannot forget her umbrellas. British weather is unpredictable, and she often used clear umbrellas designed to match her outfits. The transparency allowed crowds to see her face even in rain. What seems like a simple tool against weather became part of her visual identity. The umbrella showed practical thinking combined with symbolic visibility. As we approach the closing reflections, consider how these objects form a portrait more intimate than any official painting. They reveal patience, consistency, and resilience. A handbag that signaled quiet messages, gloves that balanced warmth and distance, shoes prepared carefully for comfort, a red box that arrived every morning for over 70 years, a photograph that held love beyond words. In September 2022, when news of her passing reached the world, many people remembered not only the crown, but the familiar images of these everyday objects. The handbag swinging gently at her side, the bright coat and hat, the steady walk supported by a cane. These objects became symbols of continuity in a changing world. Perhaps that is why the study of daily items feels so powerful. They remind us that history is not only shaped by speeches or ceremonies, it is shaped by routine, by the quiet choices made each morning, by the objects we reach for without thinking. For viewers who have lived through many decades, these details may feel especially meaningful. You have seen the world change just as she did. You have held onto objects that stayed with you through joy and sorrow. Maybe a watch passed down from a parent. Maybe a chair where you read every evening. These items hold memory. Queen Elizabeth's life shows that greatness does not erase ordinary habits. Instead, ordinary habits support greatness. The discipline of opening a red box daily, the kindness of writing letters by hand, the comfort of tea taken at the same hour. These routines created stability in a life filled with constant attention. As we gently close this story, let us reflect on the deeper lesson hidden within these 15 strange facts. Objects themselves are silent, yet they gather meaning through use. A handbag becomes a language, a walking stick becomes resilience, a photograph becomes love that endures beyond time. Perhaps the true mystery is not why she used these objects, but how they allowed her to remain steady while history moved around her. Through wars, celebrations, family changes, and political shifts, she returned each day to familiar tools. They anchored her. And maybe that is something we can carry into our own lives. Look around your home. Notice the objects you use without thinking. Each one holds a story. Each one marks the passage of time. Thank you for spending these moments exploring the quiet world behind the crown. May the memory of simple things remind us that dignity often lives in small gestures. And may we remember that even the longest reign is built from ordinary days, shaped gently by the objects held in human hands.